we are trying our best to get this process perfected. So yeah, without any further ado, I'm going to start with our presentation. The time is now exactly 3:30. So yeah, here we go. I'm going to share my screen with you now. You should be able to see my presentation now. All right, to get us started, as you all might know, we are currently going through a difficult time in our country and also as a planet. It's quite rare that you even hear about there being a global state of disaster. I think we're living in very interesting times. But however, at Eskom Expo, we are trying our best to ensure that life does not come to a standstill, especially in terms of developing scientists who are going to be at the forefront of solving problems such as those that we have right now. So Eskom Expo is going ahead. No changes have as yet been made. So we're trying to actually keep a sense of normality in terms of our program rollout. Some of us might have attended workshops before, some of our learners might have attended workshops before, but because of the lockdown, we can't really have face-to-face interaction. So we are looking at doing everything through online medium. So that basically brings me to what the objectives of what we're trying to do right now. Currently out there is a 12-week social media plan in which every day since last week, Monday, we've been rolling out some material that learners can use to assist them in terms of getting their projects kickstarted. At the end of the 14-day period, we would like learners to at least have together a research plan for submission, just for us to not necessarily submission for assessment, but submission so that we can offer some kind of guidance to the learners in terms of refining their projects and making sure that they are up to standard. Once again, when the learners have completed their project plans and submit them to us, it's not an assessment platform, but it's just a platform for sort of mentorship or some sort of assistance to the learner to make sure that their project is of good quality. So the objectives of these trainings, we're going to be rolling out the trainings for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Trainings will be happening on a Wednesday, as well as a Friday, covering some aspects of what material we're putting out there during the lockdown. So I will also browse through the plan for those who have not seen one. The plan will also be shared in our chat. Sagwadi, will you be able to share some of those documents?
Yes, I'll be sharing documents throughout the presentation.
Thank you so much. Some of us might have questions. So if you do have a question, just bear with us. I think there's an icon where you can just wave to show that there is a question you have. But please just wait for questions up until the end of my session. Today, the session is going to be facilitated by myself and Ms. Nalini from KZN. She's the provincial coordinator for KwaZulu-Natal. Just say a quick hello for everyone, Nalini. Oh, she's currently muted. Somebody, are you unmuting there?
I think she can unmute herself because I said they'll be able to unmute themselves.
Oh, okay. That's cool. So just make sure, please remain muted. We're trying to minimize as much background noise as possible. That's why everyone is currently muted. But we will allow everyone to unmute during the questioning session at the end of my session. Oh, there's Nalini. Hi, Nalini.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so to get started, our basic objectives is to provide project development support for learners. So we will look at avenues of rolling out this kind of platform to learners as well, just to get them involved in training sessions. Put out there is also a quick step-by-step instructions on how to go about starting your research project. So we're also looking at providing ongoing remote support to educators. Now we at Expo would like to just say that we don't necessarily want to leave you in the lurch, especially in these difficult times. So we will provide as much support as possible. We're also trying to maximize the use of available digital platforms to deliver an Expo experience. Yeah, those are our basic objectives. So now, for our educator training rollout, like I mentioned in the beginning, we will be having 2 sessions a week, a session on a Wednesday and a session on a Friday. On each day, we will be having a morning and afternoon session. Morning sessions will take place at 10 to 11, and then afternoon sessions will be taking place at 3:30 until 4:30. This is just to facilitate educators who might be doing teaching in the mornings or teachings in the afternoon. We're trying to at least have sessions for either or, you know. So yeah, that's basically what we'll be doing. And the sessions will be rolled out by provincial coordinators. So for Friday session this week, there will be a different provincial coordinator conducting the training. So you'll be seeing a varying faces from now on during the training sessions. So now, as an educator, what is your role in assisting learners to come up with a research project? Now, there's a document, the first document we put out to learners in terms of assisting them with starting off their project is a document we call Document 1. So I'm going to share this document, just show you the document. And then Sagwadi is also going to be sharing them here on our chats. So the document that we're currently looking at, let me just open it quickly. So document 1 is basically a guide on how a learner needs to go about developing or identifying a research topic. The document should be on your screen right now. Oh, no, that's my presentation. Sorry about that. Share document, where is it? There we go. All right, so this is what we call Document 1. It's a guide for learners on how to go about identifying a good research topic. Where do you look? What procedures do you need to go into when you're trying to identify a research topic? Now, it's very difficult for learners to come up with research topics, because I know when I was in varsity, it was always said that everything that needs to be researched has already been researched, which makes it quite difficult for learners. But now I think it's also guided by the fact that our learners are always trying to come up with something new, make something out of nothing. But we are saying to you that, no, we need to teach our learners how to take information they have, move from what is known and move on to the unknown. A research might have been conducted already, but that does not mean that you cannot revisit a certain research that has been conducted and then look at gaps and loopholes into what was done and make a research project from there. So what we always encourage our learners to do is to, number one, tap into their curiosity. Now, this should be driven by questions. Our learners need to be able to question the environment they find themselves in, make observations and ask questions like why, what, when, and how, or what if this happened, you know? So this document clearly highlights all the steps that a learner needs to do in terms of tapping into their curiosity. You know, they need to be able to identify phenomena in their home, local community, or even within a workable space, and then ask those type of questions. For example, the examples that we do have here, I'll just go through one or two. A bridge that keeps flooding during rainy season. A child should be able to say, look, there's this bridge and it's meant for us to cross over a body of water, but it keeps being flooded. What's causing this flooding and how can I contribute to making this device work more effectively? In terms of lack of running water, what ways can we ensure that our learners have access to running water. So these are the questions that learners need to keep asking themselves. Move from what is known to what is unknown. Learners will know that a banana is sweeter when it's ripe, more ripe than when it's not. Why is that the case? Why does a banana get sweeter over time? You know, it seems like a mundane thing to ask yourself. Some things might seem obvious, but we might not know what the causative agents are in some of those things. So our learners need to be able to ask questions in terms of that. Another thing we also want to do is we want learners to unleash their creativity. Now, unleashing your creativity, a whole lot of our learners are creative, but we need to channel that creativity into coming up with projects that are realistic, doable, and are achievable. So that's basically what this document covers. All the aspects that a learner would need to do in terms of coming up with a good research project. But now question is, what is the role of you as an educator in terms of getting learners to understand this document? So I'll just go back to my presentation just to highlight some of those key areas. Right. So as an educator, on your screen right now, there are some points on what is your role as an educator. For example, helping learners to find a viable research idea that that can be challenging for them. So what you would want to do is be in a space whereby you are able to take something that seems far-fetched and hone it down into something more doable. Now, learners usually fall into the trap of trying to impress with a research idea instead of looking at the practicality of an idea. So as an educator, you're going to need to be more of a supervisor when it comes to this, which is why I'd like to hope I coined the term eduvisor. You're a supervisor and you're both an educator and a mentor. So that's the role that you need to take with the learners. You need to be traveling through this journey with the learners. Right, so your key roles as an eduvisor is to take an active role in research topic ideation. So what we normally do, or normal common practice, is for teachers to give the learners the task of going home to come up with these ideas that they can possibly conduct an expo projects from. But this sometimes does not work. So we need to start taking an approach where we do group ideation sessions. I'll be going through, I'll be just showing you some activities that you can conduct with learners. You need to be able to assist the learners to define their research topic. Sometimes the learner has some idea of what they want to research. They might be passionate about a certain field. You get learners who say, I love physics. But now, how do we take your love for physics and help you define a possible topic for a research project? You need to assist your learner when it comes to project planning. All the planning involved with regard to executing your project. Nothing ever works if there is no plan. So as the eduvisor, you need to be able to assist learners to plan. Once again, you need to provide emotional support. At some point, learners take part in the program not knowing how much work it entails. So most of them end up being discouraged or even end up not wanting to participate anymore. So we should be able to offer that level of support in terms of emotional support, by reassuring, by inspiring, and also applying a bit of tough love. Once again, you also need to monitor the progress of the learner. In so many instances, we get learners showing up at the regional science fair. Some of the work is not up to date. Some of the poster boards are not complete, missing documentation. So this is something that we need to tackle. We need to be able to monitor the support, the progress of our learners when it comes to doing the Expo project. Teachers and learners may be in contact with our regional science fair directors, may be in contact with our provincial coordinators, may be in contact with mentors from some schools. There is some level of support for everyone when it comes to this. If you are struggling as an educator with monitoring progress of the learners because of the immense workload that you have, you can get in contact with either one of us and we'll offer some sort of support when it comes to assisting the learners. Now, I have here a video that speaks about creativity. This is a talk by Sir Ken Robinson. He was doing a TED talk a few years ago, and he shares his perspective on creativity and what it means for a child to be creative and how we can further build up on that. So it's a 5-minute video that I'm going to play. I hope you enjoy it. Here goes.
And other things. So I have a big interest in education, and I think we all do. We have a huge vested interest in it, partly because it's education that's meant to take us into this future that we can't grasp. If you think of it, children starting school this year will be retiring in 2065. Nobody has a clue, despite all the expertise that's been on parade for the past 4 days, what the world will look like in 5 years' time. And yet we're meant to be educating them for it. So the unpredictability, I think, is extraordinary. And the third part of this is that we've all agreed, nonetheless, on the really extraordinary capacities that children have, their capacities for innovation. I mean, Serena last night was a marvel, wasn't she? Just seeing what she could do. And she's exceptional, but I think she's not, so to speak, exceptional in the whole of childhood. What you have there is a person of extraordinary dedication who found a talent. And my contention is all kids have tremendous talents and we squander them pretty ruthlessly. So I want to talk about education and I want to talk about creativity. My contention is that creativity now is as important in education as literacy. And we should treat it with the same status.
No.
That was it. Anyway, thank you very much. So, 15 minutes left. Well, I was born. No, I had a great story recently. I love telling it, of a little girl who was in a drawing lesson. She was 6 and she was at the back drawing, and the teacher said this little girl hardly ever paid attention. And in this drawing lesson, she did. And the teacher was fascinated. She went over to her and she said, "What are you drawing?" And the girl said, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher said, "But nobody knows what God looks like." And the girl said, "They will in a minute." Okay. When my son was 4 in England, actually he was 4 everywhere, to be honest. I mean, we're being strict about it. Wherever he went, he was 4.
So
He was in the Nativity play. Do you remember the story? No, it's big. It's a big story. Mel Gibson did the sequel. You may have seen it. I don't know. It was Nativity 2. But James got the part of Joseph, which we were thrilled about. We consider this to be one of the lead parts. We had the place crammed full of agents and T-shirts. You know, James Robinson is Joseph. He didn't have to speak, but you know the bit where the 3 kings come in? They come in bearing gifts, and they bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh. This really happened. We were sitting there, and they, I think, just went out of sequence. Because we talked to the little boy afterwards and said, "You know, are you okay with that?" And they said, "Yeah, why was that wrong?" They just switched. I think that was it. Anyway, the 3 boys came in, little 4-year-olds with tea towels on their heads, and they put these boxes down. The first boy said, "I bring you gold." And the second boy said, "I bring you myrrh." And the third boy said, "Frank sent this." What these things have in common is that kids will take a chance. You know, if they don't know, they'll have a go. Am I right? They're not frightened of being wrong. Now, I don't mean to say that being wrong is the same thing as being creative. What we do know is, if you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. If you're not prepared to be wrong. And by the time they get to be adults, most kids have lost that capacity. They have become frightened of being wrong. And we run our companies, this, by the way, we stigmatize mistakes. And we're now running national education systems where mistakes are the worst thing you can make. And the result is that we are educating people out of their creative capacities. Picasso once said this. He said that all children are born artists. The problem is to remain an artist as we grow up. I believe this passionately, that we don't grow into creativity, we grow out of it. Or rather, we get educated out of it. So why is this? I lived in Stratford-on-Avon. I lived in Stratford-on-Avon until about 5 years ago. In fact, we moved from Stratford to Los Angeles. So you can imagine what a seamless transition, this was from LA. Actually, we lived in a place called Smithfield, just outside Stratford, which is where Shakespeare's father was born. Are you struck by a new thought? I was. You don't think of Shakespeare having a father, do you? Do you? Because you don't think of Shakespeare being a child. Do you? Shakespeare being 7. I never thought of it. I mean, he was 7 at some point. He was in somebody's English class, wasn't he? How annoying would that be? Must try harder. Being sent to bed by his dad to Shakespeare. Go to bed now, to William Shakespeare, and put the pencil down, and stop speaking like that. It's confusing everybody.
All right. So yeah, the reason why I like this video is Mr. Robinson touches on something that I also find close to my heart. Like, most of our learners are at most times very afraid of being wrong. They don't want to pursue something because right from the get-go, they feel that this is way out of what I can achieve, So we need to be able to nurture that creativity. As educators, we need to look at learners having what seemingly is a far-fetched idea, but be able to hone it down. For example, I had a learner when I asked them, what is your research idea? The learner said, no, look, what I want to do is, I think we can put solar panels on the moon, and then because it's closer to the sun, and then we will transport the electricity back to Earth wirelessly. Now, this sounds like one of the craziest ideas a learner can come with. And one would be tempted to say to the learner, no, you can't do that, it's impossible. But it's always better if you tell the learner, okay, look, I can see you have an interest in renewable energy, and you have an interest in wanting to make electricity more accessible by optimizing on what a solar panel can do. What you're doing when you do that is you're taking what seemed to be a far-fetched idea and bringing some realism and some practical application to what is possible. So this is why I like this type of video. At some point, the Bill Gates of the world, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world had these ideas, and they must have presented it to someone. And someone must have told them, this is impossible. But someone must have said at some point that I believe in your idea and you're able to do it. And look where they are now. So as educators, this is one thing that we need to do when it comes to our learners. We're not saying we should pursue what is impossible, but what we're saying is move from what is seemingly impossible to what is doable without necessarily crashing the child's idea. Some ideas, yes, are never going to be able to be implemented, but we need to look at the idea and see what is doable and what is not. So I think I've covered most of what's on this slide. Learners are inherently curious, and this curiosity can be channeled towards the societal challenges, natural or unnatural things they see in their environment. So going back to what was on document 1, the learners identify the problems. I think we've gone through most of what I want to cover. Always asking questions: why, how, when. We recently had a phenomenon of the white butterflies. No one knew where they came from. They suddenly appeared. So we should be able to...
Excuse me, Raven. We can't see the slides anymore. Can't see the documents you're talking about anymore.
You can't see the slide or the document?
Yes, yes.
There's
I
nothing
don't know
appearing?
if it's me only, but there's no slide anymore.
Okay, Sagwadi, are you able to
see
see
your face?
You just see my face?
Yes.
Okay, let me try sharing the screen once more.
The documents are in the chat.
Thank you. I see it now. Thanks.
Are you seeing it now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. This is a snippet of the document. right? So these are the kind of observations that learners need to be making and asking questions about what is causing this kind of phenomenon. Why is it that this is happening? You know, this is what's going to help the learners identify a project topic, being curious and being creative. Right. So moving back to the idea of ideation, let's say the learners have made these observations and now we need to come up with a suitable research topic. Now, instead of leaving the learner to their own devices, there are some activities that the learner can do in terms of that the educator can do with the learner in terms of getting the mind juices flowing. So there's activities such as the brainwriting activity, storyboarding, questioning and a sample, Scamper. So these activities I got from a website. You should be able to see the link on your screen right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and open the link for everyone to see. I hope it works. Can everybody still see? Can everybody see the website I'm in?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, it's still opening. So you can see the website, 15 creative exercises that are better than brainstorm. Everyone can see that, correct?
No, I can't.
No, I can't see it either.
Okay, I'm going to make things easier. Can we see it now?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so this is a website that I'd like to use, especially when I need to come up with some innovative activities that I want to do with kids when I do my learner trainings. So like the examples I've listed, these are the activities that you can do. And then the website also gives a description on how to go about doing the exercise, mind mapping. How do you go about doing mind mapping? How do you go about doing a group sketch? Word banking, you know, and so on and so forth. Scamper, the 6 hats, you know. So you can just visit that website. It's fantastic. The exercises will help learners assist each other in terms of perfecting their research ideas or coming up with effective research topics. They'll be able to critique each other's ideas and then move along to a point where the research topic is a realistic one and possibly impactful. So if the learners are able to question themselves, then it becomes easier for them to be able to defend what they're presenting out there, because they would have gone through some sort of session where their idea is either critiqued or proven or disproven. So this is a fantastic exercise that learners can do along with teachers. Right. So it's also important to remember that a good research idea does not necessarily stem from an original project idea. I'll say this again. A research project does not necessarily come from an original project idea. What this means is the learners can look at research that's already been done and then find the loopholes, find what was not covered by a previous researcher, and then base their research topics from there. Innovation stems from looking at what is currently out there and improving it and making it all the more relevant for the difficulties or for the need that currently exists. So this is what learners also need to do. Like I mentioned in the beginning, learners find it very difficult to come up with something new out of nothing. We need to be teaching them how to move from the known to the unknown. So even on the document 1 that we have, there are some websites that learners can visit. On these websites, they will find possible research topics or a topic that they can look at. You'll have probably there's something that says, try doing a research topic on astrophysics. And that's where it leaves you sometimes. So the learner needs to take it upon themselves to find out, what is astrophysics? What can I learn about astrophysics? What do I find interesting with astrophysics? Also on that document, there is a site where learners can look at past expo projects from kids around the world. The kids can go through those projects and try and better them, or try and looking at alternative ways or alternative methods that they can apply when it comes to doing those projects. Now, we need to be careful with this one because learners will be tempted to duplicate what has been done. And that's where your eduvising skills need to come into play. Being able to look at a project and assess whether this is a learner's original thinking or is the learner basically just duplicating research that's already done. So these are some fantastic sites that you can look at. If you do have your document, I think Sagwadi has shared the document. The blue text is hyperlinks. So all you do is just click on those hyperlinks and it will take you to the site. And then once again, encourage learners to read all types of material that is at their disposal. To see the world with an inquisitive mind. It should always be in a space to question, find out what causes these phenomena to be happening. And then once you've found a material that you'd like to focus on, then you can move towards helping the learner to develop a possible research hypothesis or engineering goal. Now, the next session is going to be hosted by Nalini, my colleague, who's going to be talking about actually moving from your research topic or your research idea to then developing your hypothesis. What are the steps that you need to go through when you need to do that? And from here, I'm going to hand over to Nalini. So what I will do now, request from Sagwadi, our host, is just open it up for a few questions if we have any.
I'm not sure whether you guys can hear me. Is it possible to get this this presentation or the slides via
I'm
email?
on 2 different meetings at the same time.
In terms of getting access to these documents, they should be shared on chats. So you will have access to these documents. Again, you can access the documents on our website, www.exposcience.co.za, or you can have a look at them on our social media, our Facebook page, Eskom Expo for Young Scientists. But the presentations will be shared now by our.
I think Amy has a question as well.
Yes, Amy?
Hi. My students are asking me, does their project need to be something that they can physically make, or can it be an idea of something they would like to make?
All right. This is something that normally happens. Our learners will have a fantastic idea, something they would want to build, right? Now, the Eskom Expo, when it comes to doing an engineering project, the moment a learner wants to build something and has an idea of a possible prototype to build, we want them to actually start constructing them.
Okay.
Because we also don't want them to build models. We want them to build actual working prototypes. But however, they can take a practical approach in terms of designing, like a proof of concept.
Yes.
But this needs to be a project that is very detailed, moving from your design criteria, be able to have illustrations of what they would like the device to do, and it should be practical in its idea. It shouldn't be as far-fetched, because if you're not going to be building anything, it becomes easier for a learner to get lost in what is possible, or what they think is possible. So when coming up with those ideas, there needs to be a certain level of practicality. But foremost, we want the learners to actually start building their prototypes. They should encourage them to build.
Thanks, that helps a lot, because I think a few of my learners would like to harness energy from interesting sources, but they can't physically do it, so I think I'd have to help them there with their topics.
Any other questions? I'll take one or two. If no other questions, I'll just hand over to Nalini. I think someone's trying to ask something, but with bad connection. No questions? Okay, I'll hand over to Nalini. Nalini, it's over to you.